Thank you so much, Steve. And see, I told you there was a basketball on the first slide, just for you, just for you. So good morning, everyone. We made it to Wednesday. We got through two great days of information sharing and networking. How many people have had a great time here, just like I have? I know, right? So this is my first year coming to an EIS event, and people have raved about it to me for a while, and it did not disappoint. So huge thank you to the Media Post team for putting on such an amazing event. Huge thanks to Women of Email, as Steve mentioned, for putting me on this stage today. Hugely grateful for everyone with me being on here. So when we originally talked, I was supposed to just be a part of the panel. And after a couple of therapeutic conversations and phone calls with Steve, what we realized is across my career, I have been a part of really big organizations, but I've always been either a one-person team or a two-people team. Had to pluralize that. So this was a very important topic for me to just kind of get up and talk to you guys about today. So when I started my career, I actually did not start in sports, which a lot of people in the sports industry don't have that particular background. I actually started at UPS, so really corporate. And I was the one intern who was solely responsible for a lot of the marketing and the HR efforts there. And then from there, I actually had a kid and became a mommy blogger. So I was a team of like 1.5 because he kind of gave me the content. And then from there, I parlayed that to me working for Carter's and Oshkosh B'gosh. Again, he was a really big influencer of that because discount on baby clothes. But when I started there, I was the sole person responsible for all of the email efforts for Carter's and Oshkosh B'gosh. Don't panic. Back then, we were only sending 2 emails a week. It is not that way now. And then from there, I got to the Hawks and what was then Phillips Arena. And for a month, I was by myself. And then we had a coordinator who started a month after me. And we became this really powerhouse team of 2. So still not super big, but, it's fine. So what I do now as the Senior Manager of Marketing Innovations is I support the Hawks, State Farm Arena, our 2K team, which is Hawks Talon GC, and the College Park Skyhawks, who will start playing in November down in College Park, Georgia. So as you can see, that's 4 huge business entities that I am responsible for the email and form efforts for. And this was a really good thing when there was 2 of us. Because I am definitely the strategy person. You give me a problem, you give me some headphones and some good coffee and a whiteboard, I can move the world for you. And then my counterpart was basically the same way. You give her a technical issue, she would figure it out. Again, with bigger headphones because she wanted to cancel out everybody talking to her, a bigger cup of coffee, and we would both figure it out. So that was great for about 3 seasons. And then, of course, at that time, we didn't have to worry about these 2 on this side because they hadn't started yet. So we were really just focused on the Hawks and just act like State Farm Arena's not there and it said Phillips. So we just focused on those efforts and everything that went into that. And so this kind of went very well for about 3 years, 3 seasons. We kind of go with seasons. We kind of count our time in seasons there. And then last July, I went on vacation. And I came back from vacation, and she put in her 2 weeks' notice. I haven't been on vacation since because I'm a little shell-shocked. But no, it was totally fine. I'm all about growth and opportunity, and she had a really great opportunity. And she had been trying to teach me, and I should have seen the signs. She had been trying to teach me to become more technical. But we were just moving at a very fast pace. So August 10th, I will never forget. Number one, that's my dad's birthday. Number two, that is when the NBA schedule released. So for those of you who are basketball fans, you know that is a huge day. If you follow any of our social accounts on Twitter or Instagram, it's a really big deal. And we try to do a big deal with email as well. But that was her last day. And we were half day. And so she left at about 2 o'clock that day. The schedule released at 5. So, I was by myself. So even with everything that she was trying to train me, and just the strategy part that I had down pat, I still ended up like that. That was me. That was me for a good solid 2 hours. Because even though the emails were built, they were ready to go, we had the list, we knew who we were talking to, we knew what the campaigns were. It was at that moment that I was kind of just by myself. And I know a lot of people are probably like, well, you had everything you needed, so you shouldn't have been panicked. But I got through that day, had no issues. But this was why I was panicking, because this is all in my head on a regular week. This was the first 2 weeks of our season. So think about it. I'm by myself. I have no experience in building emails. I'm literally just the person that figures out how to piece email with the other channels. But now I have to do all of the email promotion for all of these different things coming to our arena. And we had recently transformed the arena. So we had our open house event, which was the one you see with the welcome to the neighborhood. And literally right after that, we went back to back to back to back to back to back to back. So that was dealing with a lot of the different games that we had coming on, and then the different promoters for these different shows who also wanted their different things. So we had to really kind of come together, and I say we, I mean me and my director and, a lot of extra coffee to figure out how I could streamline a lot of my efforts so that I wasn't trying to, appease the different promoters by when they come and say, can I get an email blast for my show that's coming up? So we had to really try to figure out ways to do that. And I will say that a lot of times this was me, but because I was the only one who knew email within the organization, they wanted me to be this. They wanted me to be this duck. I had to be very calm on the top, but I was paddling like hell, like on the bottom. I really was, because throughout my career, like I've said, I've always been a team of one or a very small team. And I thought I had it together. I thought I had all those lessons learned, but really, I figured out I didn't. But throughout the season, I learned a couple of lessons. When I took a step back and kind of got out of the fog. When you work in sports and entertainment, we work extremely fast because, like I just showed you, that's really everything that's in our head. And then we have other events that are coming to the arena that we also have to keep in mind as well. So all of this, trying not to be him, trying to be this. And so I had to teach myself very fast because there were things that I was making mistakes on each day. So the lessons that I learned during this season: email craziness happens. You all know it. This is our world. You could be going along on a campaign by campaign, day-to-day basis, but then something happens and you have to adjust. That something always happens with us. If a player is traded and we have to take that player off of upcoming creative, if a show was supposed to come and they didn't sell enough, so they canceled, we got to take that out of rotation. There's something that is always happening that always kept me on my toes. A lot of coffee, just saying. Learn from your missteps and mistakes. This was my favorite lesson that I learned because to those of you who are used to piecing emails together, which I was not, I'm sorry, forgot about that. There were times where I was working on an email for a pre-event or a pre-game, and literally the only thing different in each email was like a small banner that told you had access to this club. But because I was so much in a fog, I was actually doing like cloning different versions of the email. So I had like 4 different sends versus using segments in Marketo. Simple. But I couldn't see it through the fog. But I did learn that during the year. And one of the other things that we did was for our arena emails and the upcoming games, those things were on the website. And I was sitting there trying to go through our creative folders, trying to figure out where those graphics were to piece those emails together. And then my friends at Movable Ink came along and said, honey, you could just web prop. Like that would save your life. So that really saved time. Like those different things saved time and just made me more efficient with the things that I was working on so I can get back to doing more of the planning that I was more comfortable doing. Stay curious. I am one of those people that if you send me a link about a webinar or an event like this, I am always trying to sign up because I never want to like be stale in the things that I know. And I wish I had done this a bit more before my help left because I probably would have been in a better position. So I will always just like tell people to like stay curious and keep learning. You are not alone, even though I was. And I know that's kind of funny for me to put that, but even though I was the only one in the organization who was responsible for emails, like our marketing team, like the rest of us kind of flow the same way. There's like 1 or 2 of us that support each channel. Our web developer, I have to give a huge shout out to him because he was the only one that knew any semblance of code. Like, so when I was looking at emails, he would kind of look in and like try to help me out with it. But everybody else was just like, we're here for you. We're here to get you another coffee if you need it. My director was also extremely helpful because what I did not mention during this time, like while we were trying to get the arena reopened, we went from Phillips to State Farm. And for any of you who have done an email domain change, and this is your regular day-to-day, bless you. Because I wasn't notified until about 3 weeks before the name change happened, so we had to do all of that. It was just a lot on the back end, but he really stepped in and kind of helped me with all of that. I reached out to a lot of internal teams, our CRM team, because there was a lot of things that I could have done from a data standpoint that in the cloud of just kind of being by myself first and foremost, I didn't realize that there were things that they could set up from like the token standpoints that would help me, make my emails a little bit easier to kind of get through. And then I will also say, like, we had great partnerships with Movable Ink. We had a partner, Digital Pie, that helped us with our Marketo instance that kind of came in and cleaned that up a little bit because I kind of inherited that from someone else. And that really did help going through this year, like having those sounding boards and those people to talk through, so I was alone because I was the only one pressing send and running away and then coming back and make sure everything was good. But I wasn't necessarily alone because I at least had people like in my corner rooting for me to succeed in this role. Make smoothies out of low-hanging fruit. That's basically how I took a look at everything at the end of this season because, like I said, from number 2, there were so many missteps and mistakes that I took just because I didn't understand everything that was going on. But once like that "you are not alone" one came into play and people like were talking to me and like showing me different things that I didn't know, like I found a lot of low-hanging fruit that I could easily like simplify my life with just from an email perspective. So this was my progression during the season. So the email that you see on the far left, where it has us against the Suns, that was one of our previous pregame emails. That's where we started. So, for those guys, the Erics who were critiquing, don't judge me on this. Just saying, this is where we were. It was very copy heavy. There were a lot of sponsor things in there. And we didn't really like that. And I could not do that for 41 games like during the season. There's no way I could do all of that. So what we did was I worked with our creative team and Movable Ink to try to streamline that email a bit. So the one that you see next to it where it's like us against the Celtics, that whole top section, I didn't have to touch. That was literally like powered by the NBA's API. So like the door times, when the game started, the matchup, all of that was being pulled in. Literally, the only thing on this email that I had to worry about was like, I think that 50th gold collection that you see Kevin Herter there with, because that was literally whatever retail wanted going on. But everything else, the copy was standard, those icons didn't move, and then the bottom part was powering in the different games that were coming up. So it went from me taking probably an hour to get an email built to literally like 5-10 minutes, if that. So that was really a huge time saver. And so we took some of the elements from that pregame email and kind of did it for our upcoming events email for State Farm Arena. So literally everything on that, I think the only thing that I had to touch was this top part that's the dream. That's the only part that I have to touch. Everything else is powered in by like web crops. So this changes as the dates go by. Like, so now if you open this email, Ariana is not there because we just had her there on Saturday. Birthday Bash slides into that first spot, and then whatever is after the big three. I can't remember. It's all in my head, but not in my head. And then the email on the side is the one from our renewal campaign, which when they originally talked to me about doing a renewal email, they were like, well, let's do one like Spotify where it shows, you know, what you've done. You've been here for this. I panicked. I went back to the panicky guy. But I sat with our analytics team and figured out, you know, the different data points that they had in place. And we connected all of these different pods with it. And so I literally just sat down in the platform one night and worked on this, and it turned out very well. And we saw such a return from our season ticket holders because they weren't used to an email like this. We had a lot of feedback that was like, okay, you're actually paying attention to me. So this was a huge win for us, but I just wanted you guys to see like how I took that from like, this is where we were to like, I did all of this with the help of like others, but I was still like operating as a team of one. So what I did learn, being by myself, was how to add to a team. We have now since hired a coordinator who starts on Monday, thankfully. And she's completely opposite of me. So this is going to be great. Complementing skills. Like I said before, me and my previous coordinator, we were exactly opposite. I was focused on strategy. She was focused on the technical stuff. And I think that really does work because you can't have like the same people doing the same things on the same team, because then you just kind of go in this loop and nobody like knows what they're doing and there's no progress. It just doesn't work. Learn from each other. That kind of goes back to the complementing skills. I wish I had learned a bit more on the like email piecing together side before I was by myself, but it worked out. It worked out. You guys saw on the previous slide, like, I did what I had to do to make it work. Identify the skills needed for your business needs. One of the things, like when you're putting up a job description, you could just go off of what the current person's skill sets are, but not actually look at what the business needs for the future. And that's what we kind of had to do right now for this coordinator role that we were hiring for, because we were looking at where we wanted to go. What we wanted to do from an email standpoint. Do we want to continue to do the batch and blast that people wanted us to do, or do we want to streamline it? And so we really had to like think through what those skills were needed for that. And then that's kind of where we went for trying to hire for this coordinator position. Be open to learn from others in and out of your industry. I will say I'm a part of some really great groups. I know a couple of you are probably a part of as well, Women of Email, Email Geeks. And then within the MBA, we have our own Slack channel. So I am one of the think it's like the email marketing champions, like the subgroup of that. So I help a lot of the other teams with a lot of their email efforts. So things that we have coming up, we've been talking a lot about draft and what it looks like from an email perspective for schedule release. So we bounce a lot of ideas off of each other. So what I've learned from that is in those bouncing of ideas, someone can help you to get to a better place, like within your own team, but they also might know people that would be good to add to your team as well. So I say all that to say, if you are a team of one or a small team, you got this. If I survived a season by myself, anyone can. So I also have to give a shameless plug. Since I got through the season, I got another reward and I got another job offer. So I am actually leaving the Hawks. I'm heading to Home Depot. So if anyone, yeah, I know, right? So if anyone knows of anyone who would be really great at a senior manager of marketing automation role, come see me afterwards because I'm really trying to help backfill so that the coordinator does not have to be a team of one this season. And that's it.
Charma, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Charma? We're just going to extend this conversation. Let me ask Nina to come up with